Good evening, folks. How you doing? It's your friend Phil here, project management training coach. I am having a quick touch point meeting just to make sure you guys are doing what you should. It's been a while. I came on to check up, make sure you're all right. I hope you've been enjoying the streaming videos we've been presenting to you over the past number of days, day and night. Be sure you're going to find a stream that you can listen into just to keep yourself surrounded by this stuff. So today I wanted to just come on and see how you are, see if there are any questions that I can answer for you. So if you have any questions or concerns that you would like me to address, now would be a good time to put them in the chat box, because that's what it's all about, to answer these questions that you may have about the PMP exam. So, do you have questions or not? If you don't have questions, I will share a very brief lesson about a student of ours who killed the exam, and perhaps there's something you can learn from this student's approach and what he did. So I'd like to welcome you to PMP Exam Bosses Pure Gold, and maybe by the time I'm done with this you could have questions. We'll see. So this is our PMP exam guru for the day, Andy Okulovich. He was one of our students some months back, and awesome student. He went above and beyond, both for others and for himself in some of the things he did. His background is in design and creative education, and his goal was to learn the intricacies. He went into this thing to learn. And that's one thing I want to encourage you guys to do, for this certification. You really need to be in it to bring it. You need to be in it to learn so you can bring it. You want to learn all this stuff that's in this book, right? You want to be able to make it pragmatic, take it back to work and put it into action. So Andy didn't go into this just to get a certification. He went into it so that he could take what he had learned back to the office and begin to do things differently. Now, he took his contact hours with a different provider. He said the price was attractive, but he was disappointed with the content. So he searched and found Praizion. A lot of folks are like this. They go spend, I don't know, $1,000, $2,000 with some goofy course, only to discover that Praizion was what they needed, to seal the deal for the exam. So if you're one of those students, I'll just say learn from what Andy's saying. It's not too late. Jump on the bandwagon, change gear, change course, like a good explorer. Look at your compass. This is leading me to disaster. I need to change direction. I need to go with a new team. All right, so that's what he did, and he came aboard our system, and he started plowing through the content pretty ferociously. He said he found Praizion too late for the contact hours, but it was still an extremely valuable find. Never too late, folks. He said he was randomly selected for an audit, which took 4 weeks to complete and sent to the PMI, but he scaled through the audit, and onward and upward it was. He said Praizion has a great 40-day to PMP course that I would highly recommend. 10 days before the exam, I took a vacation just to be able to beef up for the exam. And I'll just say this to folks who might be going on vacation. Hopefully you've put in some time and effort before you go, because guess what? When you go on vacation, you're going to come back fresh, but a lot of the information could dissipate if you haven't really cemented it down well. So before you go on that vacation, whenever you're planning to, put in some good work, then you can go decompress, get back on the horse, similar to what Andy did. So I remember that time he was out of the loop for a while. He says, guys, nothing is better in that regard than mock exams. I completed several free online mock exams that were out there, but my results were inconsistent. I would pass one exam and fail another the following day. I'm going to keep quiet for a second and have you reread this particular section, because what he's saying here is right on the money. It's right on the money. So take a read. Read it a couple of times and think about your mock exams you've been taking. Are they like this? Because if your mock exams are like this, you might want to think again about the validity of this stuff. Because there's no point taking multiple mock exams that are not a true depiction of the real deal, you see. And that is where Andy began to realize that he really needed to change course and come on a more reliable system. So the story continues. He says, so having watched Phil's videos, I thought I'd try 2 mock exams that he has available on Praizion Media. I needed something that would clearly indicate if I was ready for the real exam or not. And I must say that Phil's exams are killer, very rigorous, but you really feel as if you're taking the actual exam and you pull out all the stops. I'm telling you, these mock exams on the Praizion site, I'm telling you, they're crazy. Seriously. I attempted a few questions some of my question writers wrote, and they gave me a run for my money. I tell you, I tell you. You want questions that will push you to the limit, not namby-pamby questions. There's so many namby-pamby questions out there. So many questions that will give you a wall of text, but the wall of text is namby-pamby. Not our mock exams. Our mock exams will push you to the limit, you know. So Andy's right on the money in what he's saying here. The mock exams are totally killer. They're crazy. Crazy mock exams. He says, I scored 74% on the standard exam and 71 on the more difficult marathon exam, where the passing score is 60%. So at that point, I had an indication that I was probably ready for the PMP exam. And ready he was. As soon as I saw it, I knew, yep, he's going to pass. You don't get a 70 or greater and go into the real exam hobbling. No, no, no. I knew he was going to kill it. Speaking of killing it, let me give you a quick question here. I'm going to give you 1 minute, 12 seconds, just like the real exam. Do you want to read this and see if you can answer it? Shoot me an answer in the next few minutes. Let me give you a couple of minutes. Let me be nice. Let me give you double what the PMI would give you. See if you can answer it. Okay, so let's take a read. Your firm has been awarded a project to revamp infrastructure on an abandoned land for use by the general public. The project charter and the stakeholder register have been developed. What should you do next as the project manager? A. Define project scope. B. Create the scope baseline. C. Validate project scope. Or D. Plan risks. So, what did everyone guess? Let me take a sneak peek and see if anyone chatted in anything. We had a couple of folks here. Shay, thank you for chatting in. Shay said, I passed the PMP exam last year. I listened to your change management and other videos on YouTube. I'm now preparing for the ACP. Nice. Hoping you add ACP videos similar to PMP. Thank you for giving back to the community. Thank you, Shay. I really appreciate that. Sonora, good to have you here. And Monique, good to have you here as well. Monique, I hope your studying is coming along well. I have extremely high hopes that you are going to ace the test because you've been putting in the time and the effort. And I know that you can absolutely do it. So I'm looking forward to some really great news. Okay. So why don't we see what the answer is? So if you're done, basically this question is setting you up to see that you are done with initiating. Okay. So you're done with initiating. And let me just say, Shay, before I hop into the question full throttle, let me just say that we've got a lot of Agile webinars coming up that have been held, and we are definitely keeping the ACP in focus. It's a very important part of the PMI catalog, you know, the ACP, and highly advise anyone who is truly practicing Agile to just get on the bandwagon and take it and add it. You know, if you're PMP already, study some Agile, you know, study Agile and get into the Agile mindset and use it. All right, so let's take a look at the question one more time. So the bottom line is the charter and the stakeholder register have been developed. What should you do next? Well, planning risks cannot be done if you don't understand scope. So D can be eliminated. So I would eliminate D. And if I haven't spoken about this to you guys, let me just say on the exam, I'm sure Shay can pitch in here. Do you want to pitch in, Shay, if you're still on? Shay can pitch in that this is a feature on the exam for you to actually X out some of those pesky options, those options that you just don't want to see them. So plan risk cannot be done if you haven't scoped out the project. Validate project scope would not be the next best thing to do because we just got done with initiating, so we need to do some stuff in planning. We need to do the scope, the schedule, the cost, everything else, so we can cancel that. Now looking at A and B comes down to two: create the scope baseline or define scope. Well, define scope gives you the project scope statement, which becomes part of this. So that means this has to be done before B. So the answer, as you can see from the change in color, is define project scope. So very well done, Sonora and Monique. Awesome job. Fantastic. All right, let's move on to our next slide and see what Andy has for us here. So Andy says, now I still had 2 days before the exam. You guys are going to love this one. So I decided to create something visual. Remember, he's from the world of design. So I think you're going to love what he created. What he created, honestly, defies logic that you got 2 days to the exam and you actually did this in less than 2 days. So he said he created this to help him remember, understand as many ITTOs as possible. I wish I could show you the full gamut of this document right here. It is massive. So on the left, I kind of tried to zoom in, but I didn't do a very good job of that. Let me get rid of my doodle there. I didn't really do a very good job of, yeah, so it's so dense. But what he did, he took, you know, page 25, he took that page and he created a map of all inputs, major inputs from one process, and all of those lines you see in different colors, those are all conveying outputs from one process to another. And at the end of the day, come back, Andy. At the end of the day, he had this huge, elaborate tapestry of processes and inputs and outputs. Basically blew up page 25. It was ridiculous. Such that everyone was saying, how did he do that? He did it with a software called InDesign, but the output was just phenomenal. Anyway, so this is what he created, and then he hunkered down, put in some more effort. He said, I decided to take all the flow charts found in the PMBOK guide and rework them into a single chart to show all input-output connections. While doing this, I really hammered all those ITTOs into my head. The final thing is one massive file that pretty much has it all. One can use it to zoom in and out and follow the arrows to see how an output of each process feeds into the inputs of other processes. And this is really key, folks. I want to encourage you, if you have not done this with your own copy of your friendly neighborhood PMBOK guide, if you've not done that with your guide, you might want to spend some time doing that. Seriously. Open up all of the figures that have data flows, and let me tell you which ones they are. So, for example, the very first data flow of this nature in the PMBOK guide is on page 76 for Develop Project Charter. So can you imagine taking all of these, page 76, the next one would be page 82, on and on, all the processes, taking all of them and putting them into this kind of document. I mean, it's a lot of work and effort. So that's really what he did. You know, no wonder it stuck. He said, if I had more time, I would probably do it differently, as the chart seems a bit busy, but nevertheless, it can be used as a cram list of sorts. I also added a few notes with formulas and other important info. So I want to challenge you, if you're getting ready for the exam, what have you done for yourself? You know, we all have different ways of learning. Some of us are incredibly visual. Some of us are great auditory learners. Some of us need to see templates and tools and manually handle stuff before it sticks. Which one are you? Depending on the one you are, you might want to craft some special study aids for yourself. Flashcards. One of my students read the entire PMBOK guide to himself on audio. Listened to it relentlessly. 2 months later, killed the exam. We all have our different ways. So I want to encourage you, don't get hung up on just, one way. Look for additional ways. Another of my students took all of the ITTOs, took over the guest room in his house, and put every single ITTO, handwritten in post-it notes, on his wall. And he would go into the room and go through each one as though he was on an inspection line, inspecting all of the names to make sure he really remembered them. And at the end of the day, boom, Gotham had passed the exam. That's how he passed the test. So different folks have different ways of getting into the zone. You got to zone out into the guide. That's the way you need to do it. And that's how Andy did it. And that's why he's earned his place in my PMP Hall of Fame. He says, but the thing is not the actual file itself, but the effort. I got to highlight that word for you guys, because it's not in the file. The file is good, but it's the journey. It's the journey towards getting that file, the effort to understand how it all works and interweaves. You see, you got to go through the journey. He said, I would encourage everyone to try something similar. Take a process and try to either visually or mentally, this is big, connect it to other processes. And then he says, I would be happy to share this file. However, this file is not based on the current edition, so it cannot be shared with you. He says, another important thing for the exam is to have a strategy. This is something that Phil emphasizes in many of his videos, and I definitely second that. My strategy, you got to have a strategy, folks, for the exam was as follows. Now, he split the exam into 3 parts. The first 100 questions, the following 100 questions, and then reviewing questions that he was not sure about. So look at it as a 3-phased approach. Phase 1, attack the first 100. This is usually the most difficult part of the exam. This could be really tough. In my case, the first 20 questions from this pool took me 1 hour. 1 solid hour. And even then, I wasn't sure how many of them I knew. It was crazy. So the first 100 questions can be pretty tough. The following 100 questions, many people have found these to be a lot easier. than the first 100. In fact, those hidden at the back towards the 150 to 200 mark, for some people, I'm not saying it's a rule of thumb, but for some people, they have found those to be really, really right down their alley, you see. So you got to have that strategy for taking this thing. And then for reviewing questions, he said reviewing questions he was not sure about. I knew I would need a break after the first 100, so I factored that in. So he took a break here, and then he just plowed on, you know. Other people would do something different. Other people could choose to have a break here, have a break here, and then come back in and finish this off, you know. Some people that I've spoken to take breaks after every 50. So a break here, a break here, a third break here, and some folks would even get up. One of my students, Ben, who by the way was a PMP back in 2010, but I don't think he found much value from having it because he was deep in the world of management in IT. So he had to let it lapse. But he got certified and all, and he told me, Phil, you know what? My secret is 5 breaks, or do you say 3 breaks? 3 breaks. So I took his advice and I amped it up and took a bunch of breaks, such that the prometric people, they were asking, do you know that your time is ticking away? I said, I know. But there's power in taking a break at 50 because your head is boiled. Your head is shot by that point, you know. So you need to go out, take a break, refresh, reboot, come back in, hit the questions again. And since then, a number of my students have taken this to the extreme with 4 breaks or even more. So, you know, at this point, by the time you're doing your review here, you need to be really careful. You know, you need to make sure that you aren't just changing stuff because you feel you have to. All right, so that point I circled right there. You want to make sure that by the time you get to the review, you want to protect yourself from doing something crazy to your exam, you know. Some people at this point right here, this is where they end up killing the exam, not in a good way. This is where they start changing stuff they should leave alone. So having breaks before is gonna help you have a clear head. By the time you get here, you need clarity of mind to know whether to change anything or whether to just move forward. And my advice, you know what my advice would be? My advice is simple. Don't change what you do not expressly remember. If you do not expressly remember it, you ain't got any business changing it. Oh, but I guessed. Yeah, leave it alone. It's a gut guess. And gut guesses are powerful, so don't change your gut guesses. A lot of people have gone into the exam and they say, Phil, if only I didn't change those bunch of questions, I probably would have passed. I'm like, well, now you know the hard way. Next time, don't make that mistake. And a lot of times, they don't make the mistake and they go in and they ace it. Okay, the fireflies are having fun out here. Okay. So that's Andy's strategy right there. That's how he did it. He said the goal was to spend 90 minutes for the first 100 questions, then take a break, then do another 100 questions, another 90 minutes, then take another break. So he took 2 breaks and then have a little less than 1 hour for review. Great plan. At the exam, I managed to stick to this schedule but skip the second break. Oh, he did skip it. Also, it was important for me to use a scrap paper to write down the numbers of questions that I wanted to review. I know you can mark each question for review in the software itself, but it was easier for me to have the list of iffy questions in front of me. So what he's saying in essence is that during his exam, he pretty much took scrap paper and he decided to mark down or write down or notate any of the questions he had skipped or any of the iffy questions. And you know, this is a perfect example of how you should adapt and, you know, use things as you like. Don't go into cookie cutter mode. I have to do it exactly as Phil said. No, you don't. No, you don't. All right, he says, I know you can mark each question for review, but it was easier for him to have them in front of him. Very good. He says, that's pretty much it. I'm now a PMP with an above target score, and it is a great feeling indeed. I would like to wish everyone success on their PMP and in all your endeavors, in the PMP exam and in all your endeavors. So thank you very much, Andy. Andy is one of my bosses. If you are on the Savage on Saturday group, you might encounter some of his posts if you go way back. So Andy, hey, I know you're mega busy, but if you're watching this, a huge shout out to you for sending me all of this great information, stepping up to the plate, sharing what you have shared with people. I really appreciate it. And that's really what it should be like. Everyone should get certified, help others get certified, school them, teach them, coach them, expose them to the world of the PMI, and then go further and begin to beef up and increase your project management awareness and strategy. So that is it, folks. I think the fireflies are just going crazy here. They really love this light. So do you guys have any questions for me? Questions, drop them down below. Drop them, or to that side, Drop them to that side. I would love to answer any questions you have and just get your mind free from any PMP exam quagmire. Let me help. Questions, comments, concerns, moans, groans, gripes, annoyances with the PMI. Let me be your shrink for the next few minutes. PMI making your life a misery? No, they're not. PMI is your friend. They're not your enemy. So questions, concerns, comments. You ain't got none? All right, it means I did a pretty good job. I've been posting quite a number of videos of late because I come across a lot of students that are totally clueless about the guide. Yeah, they are taking some course somewhere, but they're just totally blank when it comes to really what the guide means. So I've been coming out with, I know they're very easy videos, they're basic, they're namby-pamby, some of them a little bit more advanced, but I've been doing it really because people are, they need help, you know, they need help. I'll say this in closing though. Think about the courses that Praizion offers as a type of insurance. Monique, you made a great decision to be on the program, and I really hope you're benefiting from it and reading the study guide and all that, because it's like insurance, The PMP exam is $555 plus all of your time, all of your effort, all of your energy studying. It all adds up. If I was going to pay you, let's go with $100 an hour because you're very expensive, right? $100 an hour, for those of you who feel that's an insult, $1,000 an hour. It's even worse. Add up all the time you've spent, multiply it by $100 or $1,000 an hour. You see how much money you have spent studying? So when I ask folks to spend 125 bucks on a week of training, it's really not that much. And it's really not just training like death by PowerPoint. You're going to get 3 mock exams of 200 questions, 2 mock exams of 50 questions, and bite-sized chunks of all of those modules, just like Andy did. Okay, so if you want to succeed, I would advise you to invest in some type of insurance that will help reinforce your understanding. I don't know of any other mock exam that does what our mocks do. Our mocks find out if you're ready or not. It's as plain as that. You get a 70 or greater all the way on to the score bank. You get less than a 70, close the gaps. Take the next mock exam. You get a 70, good sign. Keep going. You didn't get a 70, take the 3rd mock. By the time you go through these milestones, your confidence is elevated and you're sure. But if you keep taking these mock exams from other sources, honestly, I have not found any. If you know a mock exam that is accurate, pinpoint precise, people get a 70, they pass the real exam. Or people pass it, they pass the real exam on their first try. And it's been tested and tried over and over again. If you know of any such exam, tell me, because I don't. And I've been in this for quite a while. I know a lot of mock exams. Let's go review what Andy said. I know a lot of mock exams, exactly like what our friend Andy just said. There are several mock exams that give you an assurance of readiness, only for you to go in and you're like, my goodness, what on earth happened? You see, read what he says, all right? Read what he says. The second item right there, it says, guys, nothing helps better in that regard than mock exams. I completed several free online mock exams that are out there, but my results were inconsistent. A lot of these mock exams, they're so inconsistent. It's so disturbing, seriously. But my results were inconsistent. I would pass one exam and then fail another the following day. So having watched Phil's videos, I thought I'd try 2 mock exams that he has available. I mean, at a minimum, guys, you want to go on the Praizion site and subscribe to the 3 mock exams. With 3 mock exams for $99. And then you also get the chance of watching a few other videos. Some of the touch point videos I've done in the past, you also get the opportunity to watch that, if nothing else. And it's just for $99. But if you decide to take the full course, which I would recommend, I mean, it's only a difference of 25, but you've only got it for a week, look into these options, all right? Okay, before I let the fireflies go somewhere else, do you have questions about this thing? If there are no questions, I will be wishing you a lovely night and a lovely time studying for ye olde PMP exam. Questions, concerns? Hey, Greg chatted in. Greg said study strategy. Very good, Greg. Let's see if we can help you out with that. Monique says, question, Phil, I'm taking a good. Oh, Monique, you are doing the right thing. Yeah, I haven't been looking at the chats very much. I've been yakking away. But yes, Monique, you are doing the right thing. Keep taking those crazy 2020 vision quizzes. They'll give you a good run for your time, good run for your money, a good run for your attention. Highly recommend it. Highly recommend you keep going. And Monique, you might want to look into this. There's another set of quizzes called, or another mock exam called the PMP exam challenge mock. And that is 200 questions, as well. So you definitely want to hit that. Monique, look, you need to do a check to make sure you've done the 250 question mocks and the 200 question mocks. I'm not sure which ones you've done, but I know you've been cranking out stuff really well. So I doff my hat to you. Well done. Yep. So to answer Greg's question, Greg, give me a rough idea, Greg, if you're still on, of how you study for the exams. Give me a little idea of how much time you've been putting in. Have you been putting in particular amount of time? Is it random? Is it planned? Is it planned or is it just random? So give me a second here. I'm going to look for this schedule, Greg, because I want to share with you a schedule that I usually recommend to my students for them to study for the exam. So let me find that and give me a second here. All right, I believe I have found the item of interest, Greg. So let's see if I can beam it up here for you. Let's see. Give me a second here. think my computer has a mind of its own right now. I'm gonna have to trick it into being nice and sharing what I got. Okay, so let me see. Did Greg chat in? Oh, Greg, thank you very much for chatting in. So Greg said, reviewing the PMBOK guide. Okay, very good. Started with a boot camp class. How was the boot camp, Greg? To get through the high level stuff? Did they go too deep or did they stay at a high level? So that, I mean, that's a good thing to do, just to cut to the chase and get through some of the content, cut out the crud and get some assistance. And then, okay, you're attempting to study daily. Okay, fair enough, good. All right, let me show you this schedule right here, Greg. If you take a look at the screen, you can see a Microsoft project schedule. It's a bit of an elaborate schedule. But in order to get this monkey off your back, you're going to have to be very intentional, about how you proceed. So taking a look here, Greg, this is the schedule that I put together for my students. It's a 40 plus days schedule, 41 days thereabouts. And my advice to you would be to tackle a chapter, if possible, every day, but if not possible, every 2 days. I would say with a boot camp, a thorough boot camp, a good boot camp, it is not impossible to do this over a period of a day, So I would expect that in a day, you should be able to cover some of this stuff. Like chapter one, I wouldn't be surprised if you said, oh, I just spent a day and I got done with chapter one studying it. Absolutely, because you've been to a boot camp. So I know that that is absolutely doable, you know. So you can see chapter one, 2 days. I'm a little bit conservative sometimes. Like integration management, I put that at 3 days. But I know that for someone like you might be able to do it in less than that time period. So when it comes to scheduling, like chapter 6 and cost, chapter 7, that is where it begins to get a little bit grimy. So with those, I would advise you to be a little bit more patient with yourself. When it comes to those ones, be a little bit patient. Give yourself some time to absorb all the content. It is a lot to absorb. The formulas, the multiple formulas in chapter 7, especially. Those can give you quite a run for your money. So um, be careful with those. Um, Chapter 8, quality, I also gave that some additional time because I feel that some students may struggle with some of the quality tools. Some students are not really up to speed with quality tools. I don't know what your background is, Greg, but any of these areas that is, I should say, more difficult than uh, what you would think is normal, I would say just give yourself some extra time. But here's the deal. If you really go through the stuff like this, being deliberate and calculated and intentional, the end result, Greg, would be you will end up covering all of this stuff for sure. You'll end up covering every piece of it, you know? And that's why on this, I don't just have the duration. If you take a closer look, I've got both the start and the finish date. You got to hold yourself accountable. You got to hold yourself to a schedule. So I would say at a minimum, you want to be tackling one chapter every 2 days, but make exceptions for schedule and cost. Make an exception for quality, maybe for integration and scope. But everything else, with the exception of risk, which has 7 processes, everything else is usually 1 day, 2 days, 1 day, 2 days. And it's doable. Someone says, how do I get this done? Well, you just got to be aggressive. You got to study in the morning. You got to study in the afternoon on lunch breaks. A lot of people don't want to go for lunch breaks. They want to keep working. I would say Go for a lunch break and study. That's what I did. Otherwise, as a working project manager, it is rather challenging to get a lot of this stuff done. Weekends alone hardly cut it. Those weekend alone study project managers that just study over the weekend, they find it quite hard. They spend months. You know, but if you do something like this, Greg, morning. Let me give you an idea of what I did. Morning mantra is to listen to all of the flashcards I had, audio flashcards. Okay, I would listen to audio flashcards waking up in the morning to when I get out of the door. Then I get into the car. Guess what I'm listening to on my CD player? The car stereo is playing PMP related stuff. Lunch break, instead of making myself available for meetings and so on and having a working lunch, that's where I get selfish and use my lunch to study. I either go into my car in the car park, which was I was able to turn the car on so I could use the air conditioning, or I would just go to a nearby coffee house somewhere, sit down. Back in the day was my BlackBerry. Take out my BlackBerry and read the notes that I had typed out. You know, and then going back, driving back home, that commute, I would listen to audio again, and then I would get home, and that's when my real cranking out stuff by opening up the guide, smashing it, knocking it hard. That is when that would happen. Abuse the PMBOK guide, read it, highlight it, mark it up, go crazy. See if you can do that for about 2 hours. That's a good day. That's a good day. And it has to be sustained and intentional. Lots of the things that you would rather do, you just blank them out and just focus on this. I guarantee you, you do that within 4 weeks, you should be hitting it home. You should be, so the whole idea, let me keep going, Greg. Let me show you what the end of this schedule is. The end of the schedule is a mini mock exam of 50 questions and then a final mock exam. These ones down here, the PMP mock exam, really horrendous one, and then even more horrendous, that one. And we have 3, but I've put 2 on the schedule. And once you get done with those and you've passed those, at least, my comfort would be to pass at least one of the 3 on my first attempt of it. you know and then once you get to that level, program complete, advance to the test center. So that's what my idea of a study routine would be like, Greg. I hope that helps in some way, you know answering your question in some way. I see Biran, one of my bosses, is on here. So Biran, thank you very much for chatting in. Biran is a PMP, so he's a boss, he's been there, done that, and he also has a channel on YouTube to help people as well. He said, if Phil can't help you, nobody can. You're so kind. It's funny because a lot of things go on, behind the scenes that you don't hear about. A very well-known provider, registered education provider, had a student who failed the exam. I mean, you guys would know this person in your sleep. These people, I should say, in your sleep. But this organization had a student that failed. You ever heard of a problem student? Well, I hope that's not you. But this student was a problem student to this poor organization. They said, look, this is beyond us. You need to go to Phil. So they sent this lady over to Phil, and she said, hey, I went for this training with XYZ. I failed, and they asked me to come to you. So I took this student on. Should I be really honest? I now understood. After about a month of coaching this student, I now understood why this firm sent this student to me. So give the student homework. She won't do it. Tell her to read this and that. She won't do it. It got to the night before the exam, and I get a call with a feeble, quivering voice. I've got my exam tomorrow, and I'm not ready. I'm like, what do you mean? I told you to do this and this and this. You're not ready? What are we going to do? this is going to be so, let me insert a bleep here. you know. Anyway, at the end of the day, I said, look, we need to cover the entire PMBOK guide, every single piece of it, tonight. Thank you very much. I have international travel tomorrow. See what you're putting me through. I didn't say that to her. But I remember being at Home Depot. I was doing my last minute runs because I had an international flight and I had to get all sorts of equipment. Ouch! And stuff. Terrible. These creatures are incorrigible. But anyway, I had to go to a number of places that night. But that didn't stop me from taking all of my arsenal of tools and going through them as I was on the move. We covered every single bit of the PMBOK guide in 3 hours, all because she didn't do her work. Anyway, long story short, I created a system that night for her to go through all the ITTOs, every single one. Next day, she has her exam. I have my flight. Around 5 o'clock, thereabouts, I'm heading to the airport. My flight is at 6:30 or something. Phone starts ringing, pick up the phone, and it's her. And I just shake my head. I'm like, I don't know what kind of news she's going to give me. Hello, this is Phil. I passed the exam! She's yelling on the other line. And that's how the PMP exam power review was born. It was born out of a competitor company of ours sending a student who was just incorrigible. You know, you got some students that are passively incorrigible. That's a perfect example of a passively incorrigible student. But anyway, the good news is she not just passed the exam, she passed the exam really well. And the attribution was to all the time we spent. And that's why if you go to the Praizion site and you look in the menu, you see the power review. The power review was born as a result of the need to rapidly comb through every bit of the PMBOK guide with this student before her exam. And that's how she aced it. And she's a PMP today, a boss, you know. But like Biren said, if Phil can't help you, heaven help you. Greg said, finding that it was very high level to get through the guide. Finding that it was very high level to get through the guide. I'm trying to understand, Greg. You mean that the course was a high level course and that's how you could get through? That's cool. Well, I'm glad I answered your question, Greg. I appreciate you guys joining, and I'm very grateful for you joining. I know that you could be doing other things at this time, like watching Oprah or Jerry, or some of those other characters on Hey, Game of Thrones. You watch Game of Thrones or Power. I don't know what you could have been watching. I'm totally oblivious to TV these days. But I want to thank you. Thank you very much for joining. And if you ever have any questions about this stuff, do not hesitate. Do not hesitate to drop a line in the channel discussions on any of those videos, okay? Some of the chats that come in are things like people sending me their email addresses. I can't approve those chats. Or some people sending me information that I feel this is PG. I'm not going to share this on this channel. So there's some of you who've been sending some, you know, hilarious chats. They might be hilarious, but I can't share them, you know, because they're not appropriate for all audiences. Okay? But I do appreciate you chatting in your humorous thoughts concerning mnemonics, concerning the processes. You know, those of you who have, some people send in chat, not chats, comments, and say, I passed the exam, Phil, and then they whitewash some other solution, or they big up another solution that I'm like, I don't think I should share this because I might be giving a wrong impression. So if you chatted in anything that was overtly derogatory to some firm or overtly bigging up the firm, that it almost is like a promo, those, I'm sorry, on both sides. Even though I appreciate your chats or your comments, I'm not able to share those just to protect the innocent that don't know their left from their right. You know, because if I end up saying, go study with that source, and it doesn't work out, I don't want to hold myself responsible for that. So it's better I don't even share it in the first place. And that's why I have a very conservative view regarding mock exams. And because in the past I did all this stuff. I would tell people, oh, go take that one, until one student said, Phil, I failed all because of that mock exam you told me to take. I said, if I didn't build it, I ain't going to recommend it. No more. Enough is enough. And it's worked out very well since then. Very well. My team of question writers, they do a phenomenal job. All right, folks. David, good to see. Hey, David, it's been a while. I believe I've seen you on this channel in the past. Haven't I seen? Aren't you a PMP, David? Please remind me. Brain cells have been very busy in the past number of months. But David, good to see you. I want to put money down that you are PMP. Are you a PMP, David? Forgive my memory. Forgive my memory. But I appreciate you joining. If you're not a PMP, well, my memory is probably in the future seeing you as a PMP. How about that? So I know you're going to do great, David. Okay, well, it's about that time to let these fireflies go have a party somewhere else. There was a horrendously huge beetle that decided to drop by. He just whacked me over the head. I don't know if you saw that in the middle of the thing. It whacked me over the head. These creatures, they're funny. All right, then. I think he didn't like PMP. That's why he did that. Yep, yep. All right, my folks. Thank you very much. Remember, I'm here for you. You know, when I come on like this, it's not just to share from the guide or to rattle through some slides. No, seriously, I want to answer questions. I want to help free any stuck state, you know, free you from any stuck state. Greg, I really appreciate your question. I'm hoping that helps someone else tonight. Plan out your study. Take it like a project, all right? Open up one of those tools. I don't know, MS Project or even Smart Sheets, Excel, anything. But plan it out. You can even use Kanban. Have a Kanban board. You know, sometimes for me, when it comes to crunch time, I'm going to use a Kanban board. I'm gonna have my backlog, and if stuff is not moving, I'm going to get concerned. This is how I was able to write a number of books, you know, within a certain period. I had them all in my backlog, reminding me, Phil, there's work to be done. Sometimes you need a backlog right there in your cubicle, right there on your wall, reminding you, hey, you ain't done this. How about doing your knowledge areas as a backlog? Prioritize the backlog. You know, the ones of higher priority are going to be those that you need more attention, more detail. So you might want to prioritize any of the knowledge areas you feel you need to prioritize, and keep moving them. You want to get stuff into the doing column, maybe one at a time. This is an idea. Maybe you keep one on hold in order to better understand the other. Maybe you put schedule on hold so that you can better understand scope and then move on to schedule better, or put cost on hold until you fully understand all the concepts in schedule, you know, and then you move them into your done. You want to see everything moving into done. Okay, so you can, whatever you use, just schedule, folks. Schedule, seriously, and get your stakeholders involved, people in your life that care about you. One of my students said, my wife is gonna hound me until I get this done. Actually, it was his fiance who hounded him until he got it done, and they're married now. She hounded him all the way to the wedding. You better get that PMP, buddy. You better get it now. How you gonna feed me? Anyway, jokes apart, he's now PMP, and he was able to ace the test. But anyway, name withheld. So thank you very much for joining. I appreciate you guys, and I look forward to seeing you again on one of these other touch points. Again, questions, comments, concerns. Hey, David, thank you for chatting in. So David says, not yet. Oh dear, I'm so sorry to hear that, David. Don't worry. You're going to kill it on the next go round. Okay, so you said, I'm not sure if I'm reading this correctly, page 692, tools and techniques, inspection. Let me go to 692, David. Thank you for bringing that up. It's always a pleasure to open our favorite book, isn't it? So 692, let's see what's in 692. What is in 692? It's very possible this is an error, David. 692. Oh, I can see a squiggle. Oh, yes. So I can see a correction on my page because I came across this. And inspection is in 13.3 stakeholder, monitor stakeholder engagement. Oh, manage stakeholder engagement. That is blatantly wrong. So let me look at your chat, David. Shouldn't it be 12.3? Control procurements. So here's the deal, David. There is 12.3 under stakeholder, but they included 13.3 incorrectly. So this is what I would recommend. Let me chat this into you, David. I think this might help you. You know, when you come across these, what should I call them, inconsistencies, you might just want to check out this link that I'm about to show you. Okay, I'm going to share a link to a PDF, and I'm going to put it there in the chat. And take a look, because this might answer the questions you have. And I'll go ahead and share my screen so that we can explore this together. So for those of you watching this after the fact, I'm taking a look at the infamous errata sheet for the 6th edition. I feel sorry for people who do not know that this document is out there, because they are going to scratch their heads till the cows come home. All right, so yep, PMI has not caught up with this just yet. Otherwise, we would have seen the corrections, you see. And I believe this is the most recent one. This is the 3rd print-in. So thank you for the reminder, David. This might be very well be something that I need to send on to the PMI, or maybe someone else has already. Because the last time I checked, I had corrections, I sent them, and I hadn't found them reflected in the PMBOK guide. So, yep, David, they have not gotten to that page. In fact, none of the editions have ever mentioned the page 690, 691, 692, all the way on down, or 686, I beg your pardon, all the way on down. And I believe PMI just needs to get caught up with it. I mean, it's a big book. Personally, I feel we could have been given more time to get this right, you know, but it seemed like there was a manic rush for the finish, and there's a few errors in this thing. All right, PMI are trying to change them, but they are errors. That's a given. I wish I could just spend some time showing you some of these common errors, you know, but that is one of the errors for sure. Another error that is pretty important, it just jumps out, and I don't want to numb my conscience. I feel I should just let you guys know. There is a slight change that should be made to the defined scope process. So the defined scope process in here, it talks about constraints and assumptions incorrectly in some place. Oh, there goes my PMBOK guide. I just ripped it. Oh, it's a project scope statement. Yes. Anytime you are reading about the project scope statement, okay, page 154, anywhere you see assumptions and constraints included in the description of what it does, just know that it's wrong. It shouldn't be there. And I've let the PMI know this, and they've acknowledged they will correct it. But if you read the first line, this could be a bit misleading. Under the project scope statement, it states, in my edition at least, it states, the project scope statement is a description of the project scope, major deliverables, assumptions, and constraints. No, it's not. It's the description of the project scope, major deliverables, while outlining inclusions and exclusions. But assumptions and constraints in the 6th edition are documented in the assumptions log. So just keep in mind, there's a few things in the book that still need to be tweaked. All right, I'm not having a go at the PMI. I'm just trying to help people see that we still have a little bit of a ways to go before this errata sheet is absolutely complete. Okay? So thank you, David. You're right on the money. So that is an incorrect table. 12.3 should be deleted, and all they meant to say was those 5.5 validate scope, 12.3 control procurement, and 8.3 control quality. Okay. Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate you. Remember, questions, that's why I'm here. You know, I wish in all the meetings I had on YouTube, I wish people would just ask questions, and that's all they would do, ask questions. I will answer any question for you till the cows come home, you know, as opposed to just having to read a book or talk to you about what is not valuable. You know, I want to offer value. If you've got any ideas, folks, you know, any ideas about any concept that from a student perspective, you're like, Phil, this is killing me, I want to know about it. Okay. And in the next touch point, I will cover those areas for you. All right. So thank you very much. I appreciate you joining. I'll give you some time back on your study calendar to go study a few things. For those of you that were not aware, we've got a 10 question test, and should probably show you where this is. It's on the Praizion.com site. So if I can show you that. If you go to the Praizion.com site and you hover over training and you go to the mock exams, 2 powerful mock exams right there, and I'm going to copy this for you in a second. Right here at the bottom we have a sample quiz of 10 questions. So I should probably put this in chat so that you guys can play with this after this meeting. So there's the link, and it's got a password, and I'm going to copy the password and paste that in as well. Boom. 10 question test for your night amusement. Trying to unravel how much you know in the guide. Okay? All right, folks. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. I wish you all the very best. Remember, keep on chugging. Be dogged. Be rugged. Be tough. Be aggressive. Be a maniac if you need to be. Be a PMBOK maniac. And after the exam, you can chill and go for the, I don't know, CSM or ACP or something else. You know, you could leave the PMBOK alone. But right now, you need to be in mania. PMBOK mania. Speak to you again soon, and bye for now.